welcome back to part 2 of our program. So in the last part in the previous part we had this Korean wine. It was weird. It was just very strange, and I would say I didn't really like it too much, but it's okay. It's not too bad. It's drinkable, but it's just weird. Okay, so now being in Hong Kong, we have a wide choice of, we have a huge choice of wines from around the world. It's so strange that we're sort of like the wine hub in the world right now, because we get all the strangest wines in the world in Hong Kong. And I know the next wine we're going to try, some people might have tried it, because I know it's quite popular in Singapore actually. But other than in Singapore, maybe it's not that easy to find. I don't know, huh? So we come to this red. So we're moving from the easternmost country, except Japan, yeah, right. On the Asian continent, to the westernmost on the Asian continent, yeah. Right. So it's gonna be from Syria. Okay, I have to think how to pronounce the name of this wine. Bargelus. I think it's Bargelus or something like that, or Bargelus.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is grown. I mean, the vineyard is near Latakia, a coastal town of Syria.
So can we take a look at where this vineyard is? So it's crap. Okay, it's
we see this. We are now we are in the Eastern Mediterranean, right?
So
you see Cyprus
on one side. Oh, damn, sorry. Cyprus, and then here is Syria. So people might ask, okay, this wine's from 2011 vintage, huh? So what was going on in Syria in 2011?
Have the civil war started yet?
Almost, I think. It started in 2012 or somewhere, it's
just,
around that time.
Just a few years after Obama became president.
Yeah, it's around that time anyway. But how do they make wine there? So it's from a very coastal region called Latakia. Was it like Latakia? Sorry, Latakia, which is actually not too far from Lebanon, right?
A kind of middle between the Syrian-Lebanon border and Turkey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this winery is actually started by Lebanese people, I think.
Yes.
I think
they have
family.
They have another winery.
In Lebanon called Macias. Yeah, I've tried their wines as well, Macias. I have a very good impression of it. But what I remember is that the style is actually quite heavy. That's very high in alcohol usually.
This one is heavy too.
Well, this one is 14%, but Macias I tried that's 15%.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
So it's quite hefty. I mean, it's quite heavy. And Syria, the problem with this winery, from what I heard from the story, what I've been told is that the story was that because of the civil war, the winemaker from the Lebanese winery who was in charge of making the wine, could not actually go into Syria to take care of the vineyard. So they were remote controlling, basically, the vineyard through, it was before Zoom, but they had they installed some CCTV, whatever, across the vineyard, and then they had to send the samples, for example, of the grapes,
or the base wine.
Yes, to Lebanon by taxi. At night.
What? By taxi?
Yeah.
Okay.
At night. So they would receive all those at the border, at the Lebanese border, so that they could take it back to their winery to do the lab test. So it was very difficult. So it's a labor of love, this wine. To make wine in Syria, it's not easy deal. It's not an easy deal. It's a very difficult job.
So a lot of blood and sweat in it.
Yes, because imagine every time before your harvest, you need to know if the grapes are mature enough for the harvest, right? But then as winemakers, what do? You go down to the vineyard, taste the grape, but that's something that you cannot do in Syria. So you have to send someone to pick the grapes and then just to transport it to Lebanon to taste it and then to do the lab analysis to decide whether it's good enough for picking. But the problem is, that decision is, quite a bit away. So it's a few hours away. No, not that a few hours away. It's a few days away. So if you pick the grapes, okay, you think it's mature enough, you think it's good enough for picking, but by the time it got to Lebanon, by the time, after all the lab analysis, it might be a bit overripe already, right? Because you got to time it really well.
Okay.
That's the difficult part.
Well, they have air conditioner in the taxi, right?
So I don't know.
I hope so.
But they were a bit lucky because this part of Syria was under government control. So it was not overrun by ISIS, and they could keep the production. They could still make wine, and even now they're still making. So they're alive at least. And as far as I know, right now Syria, the situation has improved a lot. And they could go back already.
Yeah, stabilize a bit.
Yes, so...
but still tough. It's very tough
but
world
this
over
vintage,
there.
it was from a difficult period.
Yeah.
2011.
So should pay some tribute to the people there.
Yes, so let's try the wine.
Okay, so now let's talk about this wine. It's called the Bargillus, right? The winery is a Bargillus, and they call it the Grand Vine de Syrie, right?
Grand Vine de Syrie.
In French, that's been the Grand Vine of Syria, okay? And made of 3 red grapes.
Yes, it's a blend. So it's a blend.
60% Cabernet Sauvignon, 20% Syrah, and 20% Merlot.
14% alcohol.
Okay, let's try.
Let's do it. Let's try it.
Quite a smoked bacon, that's what I hear.
On the nose, it's actually quite smoky, and it's actually quite attractive. The nose, I like it. It's got some red fruits and dark fruits coming out. Some fruits. It's actually quite fruity on the nose already, but then with a lot of smokiness.
Yes.
And oak. Yes, you can smell the oak. It is sort of oaky, but not super oaky. It's not overwhelming. It's not overpowering.
A little bit burnt, but that's okay, acceptable.
Wow, on the palate, the body is quite big. It's quite substantial, actually. The power, you feel it's like a punch to your face. It's wow, and then in your mouth, it starts to embrace your palate. It's actually it's quite smooth. Actually, the tannins are quite smooth. I wouldn't say it's very tannic, but you can obviously feel a tiny bit of the tannin. And acidity, it's very balanced. I love the acidity. It's beautiful. I love it. It's a good wine. I think it's a quite complete wine, actually.
Pretty long, pretty good finish too. About 6 to 7 seconds. Very well made.
The only critique I want to make is there's just a tiny bit of bitterness to it.
There's a bitterness in the finish.
On the finish, but it's okay. It's not super bitter. I mean, it's not rough and it's not super rough. It's actually quite elegant, the wine.
What about the fruit?
The fruit, I think it's still there.
After 9 years.
I think it's still there, obviously. I think this one could go well, could go on aging. It could age for another 10 years. What do you think? 10 years?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
10 years, yes, very easily 10 years.
Yeah, I still have this wine in my cellar. So
very good value. I mean, less than 300 Hong Kong.
Compared to the Korean one, yes. Yeah, 300 Hong Kong. So how much is it in USD? Around 40. Less than 40, actually. 35.
Yeah, 35, yeah.
No, I'll happily pay 30 to 40 bucks for it. Over 50, no. But under 40, I think it's great value. And you know, it's a wine from Syria. I mean, I would love to support Syria. I would love to try more wines from Syria, but I think this is so far the only winery in Syria. If I'm not mistaken, is it the only winery in Syria that I know of?
I'm not sure.
But probably, if you have another Syrian wine, you know, just let me know. I would love to try, but I would like to know where to find it as well.
But I'm glad that they are on sale in Hong Kong. You can find it in Hong Kong.
You can find it in Hong Kong. You can find it in Singapore.
Yeah.
I know quite a few importers. Quite a few wine shops in Singapore carrying this wine. But why Singapore? I don't know. Because just this week I saw an article about a wine bar that has a lot of old records or whatever in Singapore that actually has this wine, and it's actually the signature. One of the signatures of that wine bar is they have a wine from Syria. So actually, if you have a restaurant, you want to stand out, you know, you want your wine list to stand out, put a wine like that on your wine menu. I mean, I think it's great.
What kind of food will you recommend for this wine?
Oh, how about a nice kebab, lamb kebab?
Yes.
Yeah. Or, you know, I always think the wine should go with the food of that region.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, okay, it have a good tannin, good body, structure, but not for the steak. Because for steak, they will add too much flavor on the steak. But with kebab, it's a more better pairing. But because kebab is already some spices and smokiness in the kebab may go well with that. This one is already there's a lot of meatiness in this wine.
It's very meaty.
Right.
But it's not very spicy.
No.
Because Lebanese wines to me are spicier. This one, it's not as spicy.
No,
That's a funny thing.
But I mean, it's fine going along with the kebab. No matter, you know, beef or lamb kebabs.
And as it breathes, there's more flavors, you know, sort of more flavors releasing in your mouth from the wine. And it's not full of different flavors on your palate. Now the wine is getting more and more sophisticated and more developed, you know, in the flavors.
So maybe we should just leave it for maybe another hour.
Sure, yeah.
And taste it again.
That's what we should do.
All right.
Yeah,
so why don't we do it? All right.
Okay. And we'll leave this wine for a while and then we'll come back. So after an hour of breathing, I think this wine has improved a lot. And the complexity has really gone up. It's a lot more complex now with all the spices and everything coming out. That was not there before when we first opened the wine. And then the bitterness is markedly lower now. It's not as intrusive as when we first opened it. Because at first it was quite intrusive, the bitterness.
And the texture much smoother now.
Oh, it's much
smoother, more coming together, very balanced, and especially the added layer of the spiciness. I mean, it just developed in the past hour. I mean, it just fit the kebab perfectly.
Yeah, so I think this wine is actually great. I would give it a good score. I would say it's an A wine. I'll give it an A. It's a wine that I would happily buy myself a case of. It's just great. So. Yeah, if you see this wine on the market, do buy it. Do try it. It's from Syria. I mean, it's such a war-torn country. I think they need, we should show some support to them.
Support the people there.
Yeah. Okay. So see you next time. Bye.